Okay, beekeepers, let me explain to you, during the winter, you have a cluster in your hive. They're keeping each other warm. They're not heating the hive. And sometimes you could have more than one cluster in a hive. And if that cluster gets small, either one of those clusters is too small, it will die. Okay, for you guys that watch my videos, you know what I do with an LED flashlight. I go through and I check. I've already done this and I don't want to mess with them anymore. I'll explain to you what happened. I checked in there and I saw bees up in the medium, the honey super. And I looked up here and I saw bees. Got a screen in there now. I usually put a screen on if I think I'm going to mess with a hive. I put it on right away. So, okay, I knew I had bees in there. So what I did is I took my hive tool, I put it in here, and I pried up on it, and I looked. And I didn't see any bees at all on that sugar. See, they're mad at me now. I didn't see any bees on the sugar. And I saw the bottom of that cluster up here, so I figured, okay, the cluster is here. And I could have strapped the whole hive and brought it inside, but I thought, okay, what I'll do is I have pieces of OSB here. It's the same dimensions as a super or a hive body. And I had stuck my hive tool in here, and I didn't see any bees. So I thought, okay, no bees. So I started sliding. I pried that up open, and I started sliding this in. And then all of a sudden, bees came out. So I had it halfway in, and I decided to stop, and I pulled it out, and of course, I killed some bees, and some bees came out, and I went and got my container, and I picked up some bees, and tried to put them back in, but you can't mess with it now because they're all pissed off at me. So if you're wrapping a hive, just waiting to see what happens with your colony, stupid things happen to bees. They're not too smart. Sometimes they break off. I've had several mediums that I've taken off with a handful of bees in between frames. They didn't get back into the cluster before it got cold, and they died because they weren't in the main cluster. And you can wrap a hive all you want. It just stung me. But that's not going to help. In other words, let me to make this point here. You can insulate a house with the best insulation, R30, R40. And if your furnace isn't putting out enough BTUs or your furnace is broke, your house is going to be cold. If your bees are sick and the cluster shrinks, it doesn't matter that you wrapped a hive. They're not going to be large enough of a cluster to stay warm during the coldest temperatures, below zero temperatures. And you're not going to know that cluster is small because you don't check them. And you won't know if a cluster broke off into two separate clusters, two smaller clusters that wouldn't make it through a polar vortex because you didn't check it. This right here happened to me already this winter. It's the second time a colony's done this to me. They break off into two separate clusters, and I think, okay, this is the cluster, and then I have to start moving the hive into separations. I find out there's another cluster in the hive. So I did harm them a little bit, but if I had done nothing, I probably would lose this colony. So what I'm going to do, leave them alone, come back tomorrow, bring it inside, open up the hive, get all the bees together into a smaller hive. You can't do it out here. I'm lose too many bees out in the snow. So tomorrow I will bring this inside onto my deck, and I'm going to do it inside the house, basically my house. Okay? Thank you.